hope you enjoyed our new intro video as we come to you again from All Things Odd. I'm Dr. Natalie Phillips.
And I am Whitney Hodges, the Audiology resident here.
All right, and Dr. Galloway is still out. I'm going to put this up our YouTube so that Whitney can cover that. I'm having a hard time sharing this out, so I'm going to have Whitney talk about her YouTube channel real quick while I share this out.
So all of the videos that we post on Thursday that go live, we do put up on our YouTube channel. So if you're not able to catch the show live, you're always able to go onto YouTube, find us, and watch any video that you find interesting. We have just a bunch of good information. So if there's, something that you've had a question about, maybe check our page. We may have already made a video about it. You can also catch last week's video. So today we're doing a part 2 to that, but last week was all about Olympic athletes with hearing loss. So be sure to check that out if you missed that video last week.
Yeah, and we did a lot of different, we put a lot of different links in last week's show, so that way you have the links to kind of learn a little bit more about the athletes that we're honoring for the Olympics. So speaking of the Olympics, it's been kind of fun. I know that by the time I get home from work, what I get to watch is handball, which is actually really interesting. I've been enjoying handball. I love watching gymnastics and swimming. So of course I've been watching that. Let's see. Oh, ping pong. I've been watching ping pong as well. Mm-hmm. What else have I been watching? I'm missing all the basketball games. I know that we talked about it.
Really?
Yeah, it makes me so mad. Like they played at 3 a.m. here. So I'm going to have to figure out how to go back and watch it. I watched a little bit of volleyball, beach volleyball as well, which I have fun. Okay, so I did also watch archery and shooting. Oh. So yeah, I was just like, what are you watching, Whitney?
So I've been watching the prime time, I think it's on NBC. So it's, like you said, everything is at 1 a.m. So I'm sleeping. But I've been watching a lot of the gymnastics. It was really cool to see the men's team get the bronze medal for the team, as well as watching Simone and Jordan Childs and all of them just dominate. Swimming. And then I actually did get to catch USA play Serbia on, I think it was Sunday, and I felt very conflicted. I did not know who to cheer for. If you guys don't know, Dr. Phillips and I are huge Nuggets fans, and Nikola Jokic is from Serbia, so he's playing on the Serbia team, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, I did cheer for the US, but it was a little bit hard because I'm just so used to cheering him on. I wanted him to do good, but that was fun.
Yeah. And Puerto Rico. So our player that we know from CSU, Puerto Rico is playing USA on Saturday. Well, my daughter and I are volunteering. So I'm super upset, but I'm going to hopefully try to catch it. But yeah, so Puerto Rico, Gian Clavel is playing against our USA team. So I might be a little conflicted on that as well. So I totally get it. So yeah, we've been watching the Olympics. Last week we talked about Olympians that have had hearing loss. And by the way, so the reason why we do this show for those of you that are watching is to kind of get information out. But then again, we do it live. So you see all of our stumbles, you see us if we have to cough or anything like that. And so you hear all about it. You see all about it because it's a live show, right? Which I absolutely love because you get people that might want to ask you a question or make comments. But really, this is a collaborative forum. So we just are able to show up. But again, anybody can be on it with us. And after our show last week, we had an audiologist reach out and send us another Olympian who's actually currently there that has a hearing loss. And so I was super excited. And guess what? We have her here. So all the way from Iowa Hearing Center, this is Dr. Kelly Cook that's joining our show today. Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
So thank you so much for sending me a link and really kind of sharing about one of the athletes that you have actually been able to be a part of and help spread awareness. So I want you to share that with people that are tuning in. So from Iowa Hearing Center, it's Dr. Kelly Cook, and I want you to just share about the Olympian that you want to share about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So I have had the privilege of working with a young man. His name is Aaron Small, and he is the first Olympic sprint kayaker with hearing loss. And so we were introduced in a roundabout way of where my older sister lives north of Seattle, and she owns her own business. And long story made short, Aaron's mom actually came to her store. They started talking. She started talking about Aaron and his hearing loss and how he was really struggling with his hearing loss and his current devices, which were over 7-year-old hearing aids at the time. So my older sister said, well, I have a sister who's an audiologist. Let me reach out to her. So she put us in contact with Aaron and his team. And he had been trying to reach out to different manufacturers for hearing aids about partnering with them. And so I reached out to, because he is a sprint kayaker, he is on the water, he runs, the sweat, the moisture, the water, we all know typically is not hearing aid friendly. So I reached out to one of my representatives at Phonak, which is one of the big 7 manufacturers for hearing aids and that we work with. And so I reached out to her. She reached out to her regional reached out to national, and we were actually able to connect Aaron with Phonak. And he is now a partner or ambassador for Phonak, particularly their Audeo Lumity Life hearing aids, because they are much more water resistant, borderline waterproof. And he is able to do that because he is currently in Paris for the Olympics training, because he performs next week. But a little bit of his history: he was diagnosed with hearing loss when he was in kindergarten. We have those wonderful screenings for school-age children for a reason. And so he was in kindergarten. He did his hearing screening. The nurse called his mom and said, Aaron failed the hearing screening, so he was sent on to an audiologist for a diagnostic evaluation. And that is when they found out he indeed had hearing loss bilaterally, or hearing loss in both ears. And so he was immediately fit with hearing aids. And growing up, one of my favorite stories with him was he would intentionally forget his devices at home because he did not like the stigma. He had even been bullied in elementary school for being different. And then his mom would call and say, Aaron, you forgot your hearing aids. I'll drop them off at lunchtime. And he was always saying, thanks, Mom. So this adventure for him is really, really important. He started with the Seattle Canoe and Kayak Club when he was 11, helped, break him out of a little bit of a shell, help with his interactions. But as he got older and his technology became older, he avoided wearing his devices on the water because he was afraid that they would be damaged, lost, and even training like running where he would sweat, he didn't want to damage his devices. And so something we spoke with Phonak about was being part of an ambassador. We were able to fit him with brand new hearing aids, as well as a Roger remote microphone. And he has just been doing an amazing job. And his overall goal is to help reduce the stigma associated with hearing loss and hearing aids, and really wanting to be a role model for other children with hearing loss, because he said he didn't have anyone like that growing up. And so he is very excited to share his experience with others, as well as raise awareness and be an advocate for other kids with hearing loss.
Awesome, awesome. Well, yeah. So thank you, Phonak, as well as thank you, Dr. Cook and Iowa Hearing Center, for just sharing and giving us another Olympian to be aware of, as well as just to be an advocate. And so you had mentioned a lot of really good things about where hearing aids have gone and are helping people. I know so many people that when they were young, they had very similar stories and didn't want to wear their hearing aids, especially athletes. And you had brought up a great point about how hearing aids now are more of what we call more waterproof or water resistant. We had a conversation with patients about oleophobic and hydrophobic coating now that they put on hearing aids that will help. But again, thank you for sharing this story about Aaron Small, as well as hopefully people will cheer him on because his events haven't happened yet. I've shared your website here for Iowa Hearing Center. So again, anybody, thank you for collaborating as well and sharing the link with us so that we learn a little bit more about Aaron. And for anybody that is in Iowa, check out Dr. Cook and Iowa Hearing Center because they're great advocates. And again, we just wanted to thank Phonak as well for being able to get Aaron to be sponsored and to help him out with the awareness campaign as well. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And if you guys want to cheer him on, his first event is next Tuesday, August 6th at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And his next event is next Wednesday, the 7th at 3:40 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Awesome. Well, good. Great information. This link, I put the link to this article in the comments section so people can just click onto that link. And the nice thing about that link is that it is, there's a little video. So you can actually watch that video and hear him talk as well. And then also in the comments is Iowa Hearing Center. So click on that link and give them a follow or subscribe to some of the things that they do. Pass on Iowa Hearing Center as well to people that you know in Iowa that might need hearing aids or hearing aids. So thank you, Dr. Cook, for joining us. And again, anybody who wants to collaborate, just reach out to us. Thanks, Dr. Cook.
Thank you so much.
All right. So we are going to go on to the topic that we're going to be talking about today. And so again, Whitney has done a really good job in getting us some great information. But today, instead of covering the Olympics, we're going to cover something a little bit different. Let me see if I can pull up my screen here. And it's going to be a little bit fun. So Whitney, while I'm getting the screen up, why don't you talk about what we're going to be sharing about today?
Absolutely. So today we are actually going to be talking about the Deaflympics. So this is basically it's like the Olympics, but for people with hearing loss. And so Dr. Phillips and I, when we first, got the idea to, start talking about athletes that are participating in the Olympics with hearing loss, Dr. Phillips was like, well, hey, did you know that there's, this other event that goes on and it's just like the Olympics. So we decided to put this together because we wanted to share it with you so you guys have something else to hopefully tune into next year. So
we'll all right. So the Deaflympics. And so what's interesting is notice that these symbols are different, right? It's not the regular Olympic rings, but they have actually a different logo, a different symbol here. It's a multi-sport event for deaf athletes. And it is sanctioned by the International Olympic Committee, and it's held every 4 years. So very similar to the Olympics. And they have summer and winter games as well. So there are some similarities. However, there are some differences as well. I'm going to have Whitney also talk about the next slide here.
Yeah. So when I was doing some research on this, I really wanted to know, okay, so what about this, what makes it different? What are the goals of this? So their purpose is to just be honest and impartial competitions for deaf athletes. So those individuals are able to participate with people who have the same disabilities that they have, and it's open to all affiliated full member federations. So that just means that all nations are able to participate, just like the Olympics. the principles are physical and mental well-being of deaf sports people, to provide opportunities for those athletes to participate in elite sports, and bringing together athletes from around the world every 4 years for sports competitions, and then also to promote the International Committee of Sports for the Deaf. So then I was like, okay, that all sounds really great. So who's eligible for this? So they categorize deafness as hearing loss of at least 55 decibels. So decibels are the units that of loudness that we use when we are performing hearing evaluations in their better ear. So their better ear has to have that. Their worse ear can obviously have a higher amount of loss, and that's at 3 different pitches that we test. So the 500, which is like a lower hertz, 1000, which is kind of in the medium range, and then 2000 is around like speech. And then they also need to be affiliated members of the National Deaf Sports Federation. And then, which is in the corner, as you can see, they're actually not allowed to have either hearing aids or cochlear implants when they're participating. So it just puts everybody on the same level playing field, which I thought was pretty cool, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was reading about this, I thought it was kind of cool. But then at the same time, I'm like, really?
I
What's
know.
interesting is is that considered a level playing field or not? So as audiologists, right? Like my first initial thing was, what? They don't get to use their cochlear implants or their hearing aids? And then depending on their hearing loss, like it might be more of a disadvantage to not use their cochlear implants and hearing aids, right? Depending, because there's varying degrees of hearing loss as well. So I wonder so audiologists, if you guys are listening and tuning in, vote. Tell us your vote. Do you think it's more of a level playing field with using their implants and hearing aids, or more of a level playing field without it? I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted in that as well. I thought it was super interesting when I was reading that.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. I did put up also the link in the comments as well. So even though we have the link to the Deaflympics website here, you can also click on the link in our comments as well, so that you can learn a little bit more about that. So we're going to head to a little bit more background, and then one of the very first Deaflympics athlete. So again, back in 1924 was the first summer game in Paris, which is kind of interesting, I think, because we're in Paris now. And 9 nations competed, 148 athletes, and there was only 1 woman. And so again, people just think about it, back in the 1920s. Can you believe there's only 1 woman? And so I think I saw a graphic recently that kind of showed that, and I don't remember who posted it, but showed the equality of how many women and how many men are now at the Olympics as well.
I also saw that.
Yeah, I think it was like 50-50. It was pretty close.
Yeah, I think it is now.
Yeah. And then, so here are some of the events that originally back in 1924 were the first summer games of the Deaflympics, is what we're talking about. So just track and field, football, tennis, swimming, cycling, and shooting. And then Eugene Rubens Alsace was the deaf Frenchman who organized the International Silent Games. And so really kind of interesting, only about 6 events at the time back in the 1920s.
Yeah. Okay, so that has since changed. So like we talked about earlier, the Deaflympics has both summer games and winter games. So here's just like a comprehensive list. A lot of the same ones that we, currently watch: basketball, beach volleyball, handball, as Dr. Phillips has been catching when she gets home from work. The winter games I thought was interesting. It has chess as an option for a game. But they have taekwondo, past events. And I try to do some research as to maybe why these events aren't being held anymore. But our artistic gymnastics, so, what we enjoy watching, diving, and then water polo. So those are events that they've held in the past. The website for the Deaflympics is amazing. You can actually go and click on every year where they've had it, what games were held, athletes, the records, who won what, how many participants. So you can go and just see what, what years each events were added and which, years events were taken out. It was very interesting and well organized. And I love the diversity of sports that people are able to participate in.
Yeah, that's a lot. That looks amazing. I wonder, it makes me wonder too why some of them were also taken off as well.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows what you see under football under your summer games, I don't know what futsal
I don't
is.
know either. I should have looked into it. That one, and then orienteering. If you guys know what that is.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. If anybody's watching and they know what futsal is, futsal, and orienteering, that would be kind of interesting because those are definitely two that I haven't seen before.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, interesting. All right. So then we have the accommodations with the Deaflympics. So even though they can't wear, again, those of you who are just tuning in, they can't wear their cochlear implants or their hearing aids, they have different accommodations now for the athletes that have hearing loss. And so one is communication with sign language interpreters. Again, not sure how well, like I figure like there's certain times where they can use the interpreters, right? There's so many times just as an audiologist, like I laugh and wish that my kids knew sign language, or like I fit them with a hearing aid while they're playing a sport and I have the little remote microphone so that I can either talk to them or I can sign to them. So I'm sure that there are certain times where they can and cannot use their interpreters. The next accommodation that I thought was kind of cool is that the start is signaled by lights. And so, yes, even though it's typically a gunshot or there's something that you can possibly feel, light alert is something that's really used in many things for even assistive listening devices, whether it's alarm clocks that vibrate or doorbells that are connected to lights that light up so that those are kind of the old school way of really alerting people that have a hearing loss. And then again, the last accommodation makes sense is that the referees also use flags in addition to whistles. So whistles and flags. So again, very visual that they're using that sense to be able to see when start and stop and different penalties or whatever it is needs to be used. So I like those accommodations.
Me too. So we're going to move into some just athletes. Again, you can go online and there's a whole list of them. I kind of combed through and I picked just a few that I thought were, really interesting. So the first Deaflympian we're going to be talking about, we actually talked about him last week as well. And I kind of hinted that he was going to be coming up again. So this is Jeffrey Float. He is a swimmer. He won 10 gold medals in the 1977 Bucharest Olympics. So that is amazing. And then he also participated, again, we talked about this last week in our previous video, so make sure you go check that out. But he won a gold medal in the 1987 LA Olympics. So he's definitely a talented man and he's from the US. So I just think that's a very cool thing to mention.
Mm-hmm. This one I actually saw too. So I knew that she was, when I was looking at the slides, that she also competes in the current Paris Games, the Olympic Games. So again, looking at this one, she did compete. So she's a golfer, Diksha Dagar from India. And she was born deaf, uses a cochlear implant. Luckily in the Olympic Games, she's probably able to use her cochlear implant, but now in the Deaflympics, she's not.
Yeah.
But she's in both the Olympic Games and the Deaflympics. Received a gold medal in 2022 at the Deaflympics. So good luck to her at the Olympics as well. So I thought this was kind of interesting. Again, the first two that we talk about have competed in both the Olympic Games and the Deaflympic Games. Yeah.
All right, and this is Terrence Parkin, and he is from South Africa. I picked him for a few reasons. One is that he has participated both in the Deaflympics and the Olympic Games, but also because he's actually done multiple events. So he's best known for swimming. So he was born deaf, but he wasn't identified until he was about 18 months old, which is, quite late. His nickname in swimming is actually Silent Torpedo, which I think is pretty cool. And then he's actually been referred to as the Michael Phelps of the Deaflympics. And that is because if you look in that bottom corner, he has 29 gold medals, 3 silver medals, and 1 bronze medal. He has participated in multiple Deaflympics as well as Olympic Games. And he does primarily swim, but he also has dabbled in cycling and mountain biking. And if my memory serves me correct, he's been successful in getting medals in those events too. So just a really cool guy. I linked a article that he did. I just thought it was really interesting. He's just talking about, growing up and what it was like, and just how swimming really, brought him a purpose in life and how nothing was going to slow him down. So go ahead and check that out if you guys
cool.
have time. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And so the next Deaflympics is scheduled for Tokyo in 2025. So now that, I love the logo that they're using.
I
it's
know.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
So now that people know about Deaflympics, if you're missing the Olympic Games, it looks like this is just off a year. So, every 4 years is the Deaflympics, as well as every 4 years is the Summer Olympics anyway. And so if you're missing something next year, you know that you can tune in to the Deaflympics in Tokyo in 2025. So that sounds like something that we could definitely talk about as well.
Coming up. So 100th anniversary.
That's going to be huge. That's awesome. All right. And so again, thank you, Whitney, for developing such a fun slideshow to be able to talk and honor the Deaflympians, I should say. I've learned a lot. We've also put links in the comment sections, clickable links. If you are just tuning in and missed the beginning of our show, we had a special guest on, Dr. Cook from Iowa Hearing Center. She had shared of a current Olympian, Aaron Small, who is spreading awareness, has been sponsored by Phonak, and also is coming up on his first event on Tuesday. But catch that. And, again, if you have any other topics that you want us to talk about or learn about alongside with you, we are happy to do that. We definitely will had a lot of fun learning about the Olympics and Olympians that have hearing loss, as well as the Deaflympics. And we will be back next week with another show. So thanks, you guys, for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you.